Hey everyone, welcome to BRAP. It's Wednesday, August the 27th. Sorry I'm late. I had got caught up. Hold on a sec here. Having some issues with my computer monitor. This sucks. All right, let's see here. Hopefully did that work? All right, here we go. All right, sorry about that. I was having issues with my monitor, but welcome back, everyone. Again, sorry I'm late. Had a baseball game this evening. My son had a baseball game, so that wrapped up about 10 minutes to 8, and then had to wait for them to get off the field and all that other good stuff. Finally get back home, then had to set the podcast up. I usually set this up earlier in the day, but just busy with work. And then, as I mentioned, hold on a sec here. I got to see what's going on. Give me my monitor is acting up. Sorry, give me just a second here. All right, sorry about that. Oh, geez, I hope I wasn't talking. Had the mic mute. Anyhow, I was having some issues with my monitor. It was going in and out. I don't know what's happening. But I have it back up now. So, but anyhow, welcome everyone. Please hit that like button if you've done so already. I'm gonna drop a link here in the live chat. Please let everyone know that we're live, and we're gonna have some guests joining us here in just a little bit. And got quite a few things to talk about. Now, one thing I'm not going to get into today. There was give me just a sec here. There's a leak by Moore's Law. Moore's Law is not, is it Moore's Law is dead? Moore's Law is dead, I think. Yeah. Let me pull this up real quick. See if I could find this Moore's Law. Oh, here we go. Apparently, so he's got a leak here. Let me share my screen here. Everyone can see this leak. So he's got this new video up. Tonight I leak PlayStation 6 dockable handheld pictures, specs, performance, and pricing. That's right. I have up-to-date documentation. It clearly shows that Sony's made some upgrades to the design. So I haven't watched the video yet, but this is interesting because there's been some rumor for some time that Sony would do some kind of handheld device, but it looks like this is a dockable device. So this is interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Again, none of this has been corroborated just yet. I mean, we still don't know if this is true. So it's still up there in the rumor. Let me get Logic in here real quick. What's going on, Game Logic?
Nothing much, man. How are you?
Oh man, I have if I don't share this with you tonight, just remind me to tell you what happened tomorrow. Remember the cyber incident I mentioned?
Yeah.
Oh, I tell you, man, these vendors, oh man, they have some cojones. But anyhow, welcome to the show, Logic. So yeah, I got a late start. I got back from my son's baseball game, so late actually. And yeah, they had him running like sprints after the game. I'm like, why are we running sprints? Is it because we lost? Like, what's happening? Um, and then like I guess one of the coaches was, upset because some of the players weren't wearing black socks. Some didn't have a black belt. They're supposed to wear black socks, a black belt. The black belt, yeah, I get the black socks. I mean, are we really doing that? Like, I mean, I don't know. Anyhow, but yeah, so that's why I'm late because they ended up staying a little bit after the game. But yeah, I was just discussing here, Hamp, that Moore's Law is Dead has a new video out tonight. He's tonight I leaked PlayStation 6 dockable handheld pictures, specs, performance, and pricing. I haven't watched the video yet. I don't know if you have, but this literally just like happened about an hour ago. So I'm going to check that out probably tomorrow when I have some time. All right, let me so Logic, I got to ask you, you're playing quite a few games right. You're playing more games than I am right now for sure. What are you currently playing right now?
Mostly let's see. I've been playing. I started Major League Baseball 25 the show 25 MLB 25 MLB the show 25 which I picked up on Xbox, so I just started that last night. That is a it's a little bit of a rodeo because they've significantly tweaked difficulty settings and some of the gameplay mechanics this year. So I was playing it for a while and I was like, and a lot of these like the batting and like some of the other side, the pitching game, like seems like it's at a different difficulty level than what I usually play at. And then I went and Googled, and lots of people have said, yeah, there's some things that they've changed. And then the pitching game, to me, historically, the pitching mechanic that I use, which I guess is the classic style, has been heavily driven by the upfront positioning of the pitch that you do. But this year it feels like that doesn't work out for you as well, and it's much more dependent on the after touch that you put on the pitch after you just as you release it. So that's causing a lot of, so there's a lot of stuff for me to deal with this year, just from having got it started late and not really paid attention to it when it came out, and all the buzz or conversation that there would have been around the mechanics. So I've been playing that. I've been playing Donkey Kong Bonanza as well. And then I just re-upped. So when I got my Nintendo Switch 2, I went and got like all of the Nintendo classic controllers that are available through the online store. And then my Nintendo Switch Online had lapsed, so I just restarted that again tonight. Because I want to start using all these controllers that now I have lying around in boxes. I didn't actually use them tonight, but I did go into Nintendo Switch Online and played in the Game Boy Advance application, and played not even sure which one this was. I think it's Super Mario Party Mario World Advanced 2 or something like that. So I was playing a little bit of that before the podcast.
Oh, nice. Okay. We got some Nintendo Switch 2 news we'll discuss here in just a minute, but yeah, no, that's awesome. I haven't, my schedule's been so crazy. I haven't really had a chance to game as much as I'd like. And actually I'm really, I know I've mentioned this to you before, but just really leading at picking up a PlayStation Portal now. Because I think that's probably the only way I'm going to get some gaming time in, is maybe like, maybe a quick 30-minute gaming session in before I go to bed. I could just lay in bed and play a game on the Portal.
Yeah, it works out. It works out good. Pretty much what I do is, so my game room is down here in the basement. Last year, I think, I I'm, after years of like the pandemic, like trying to work out of this space, which was just not a good idea. I finally took the guest bedroom on the upper level and turned that into my work office. So every day when I go up, I take either a Steam Deck or my Switch 2 or the Portal, and we'll try and squeeze in 15 or 30 minutes over lunch doing that.
Yeah.
So it is definitely a nice value add.
Yeah. I'm thinking about, again, like I said, I'm thinking about picking one up just because I feel like it's going to allow me to really get some gaming time in, um, without having to go to my gaming room, sit down in front of the TV and fire up the PlayStation 5 Pro. Yeah, I mean, like, talk about a month of great game releases for the month of August. Shinobi's out now, and real quick, I do want to welcome to the show first time guest Ghost to the show. Ghost,
what's up,
thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad you could make it. I know you had a bit of a journey to get here.
we were hauling butt, man. Hauling butt.
Yeah. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. You said there was a storm coming, so
no, we beat the storm out, but we were just we caught some amazing mahis, and it was good times, man, tonight. And I was rushing back to beat the storm and fulfill my obligation. And like I said, I appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, happy you could make it tonight. And I think Falky's going to be joining us at some point tonight. He's down in Australia. So, but yeah, so Logic, I mean, I've been kind of, chipping away when I can at Death Stranding 2, but there are other games that I do want to get to. And that's kind of the issue that I'm running into now, that I kind of don't want to put Death Stranding 2 down because I do want to complete it, but then I do feel like I'm missing out on quite some games. Like Shinobi just came out. Sword of the Sea? I always forget. I think that just dropped in PlayStation Plus. I'm on the fence with Gears, the Gears remaster, Gears Reloaded. I don't know if I'm going to pick that up. A little bit of nostalgia there for me. Like I'm kind of curious to go back to the original Gears. But I don't know. We'll see. But Ghost, is there anything in particular that you're playing right now?
So for your audience that doesn't know me, I'm Ghost in the Shell. I am the hardcore of casuals. Plain and simple. I have everything. I buy everything. So I picked up Gears of War.
Okay.
With the Helldivers. I mean, I play a little bit of everything that just piques my interest. I have this disorder where every time I see a squirrel, I run off to another game. So I don't beat games, but I play all of them. So played the Gears of War Reloaded, enjoying it, and I have a different, because I'm primarily a PlayStation guy. I have a little different take on it, and might upset some of your viewers. But of course, I'm playing Destiny 2, Ready or Not, of course, the new Helldivers update. I just play a little bit of everything. 2K is coming out here soon, so I'll dabble in that. Call of Duty, of course. The Delta Force. I'm playing that.
Okay. Yep.
So I play a little bit of everything. So if anyone ever wants to, I'm always online. I don't hide any of my trophies. I don't hide my username. If anybody wants to join up on me, I'm always on most evenings and pretty much on Sundays. You'll find me just lounging around playing all the time. So
yeah, no, that's also. Now I think is your wife also game too? I think you mentioned something about her playing PC or playing on PC.
No, my little man plays PC.
Okay. Okay, gotcha.
She games begrudgingly. She has no problem with it, but it's something she's more if she's on the PC, she's online shopping. I'm telling you that right now. So you see her clicking and clacking away on a keyboard. She's buying a bunch of shit.
Buying a bunch of stuff. Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah, I mean, look, that's great that you that you buy and try to play different games. That's I think for me, it's just, it's, let me get Falky in here real quick. Falky,
Oh,
we made it
What's
to
up,
it.
man?
hey, how we doing?
We made it to Thursday.
Yes, we did.
So we didn't manage to blow ourselves up. That's actually pretty good.
Not yet, not through lack of trying, but yeah.
Falky, it's great to see you. It's great that you're out of I guess what seasonal audits. Is that the time of year for you right now? Is that
Yes, we're just finishing off the last couple of minor queries, immaterial issues. Looks like we're going to get the all clear in the next week or so we can put the dots the I's and cross the T's on our annual reports, and we're done.
Go. It's always a good time. It's a breath of fresh air, and it's a little bit of time where you can kind of relax after those moments. I feel your pocket.
Absolutely. From sort of the start of June till the middle of September is just chaos, mayhem, and panic. But no, we had a good team thrown at it this year, and we had some a good audit team actually who understood the business and came in and did a really good job with the work. And yeah,
So-
it went pretty smoothly. So really happy
when you
about
say
that.
when you say audit team, you mean like a external auditing team?
Yep. So we had
Really-
external auditors on site for a week and a half, and
Big Four?
we've just been mopping it up. Sorry,
Big Four
No.
audit? Yeah, no, okay.
No, not Big Four. We're not that rich. No, we get appointed through another agency. They get appointed to us, and we get it pretty cheap. But I think they're the 5th or 6th biggest globally at the moment. So they're a tier 2, but
Okay.
I mean,
So
we're pretty straightforward. We're a small medium enterprise. We're less than 200 paid employees and turnover revenue less than 100 million. So it's 2 weeks and it's done. But because we only get them on site for a week and we've got some complex stuff to deal with, we go through a few bits and pieces. We've got about $2 billion worth of infrastructure of assets on the books. So there's a bit of work going on with those. But sorry, I'm talking accounting talk because we're a room full of accountants.
Well, I mean, but Falky, the accounting talk will tie into what we're going to discuss later on, as it relates to ARPU, which is which I know something you enjoy discussing. So, but no, it's great to have you back, Falky. It's great to see you again, and happy you could make it. So I was asking Ghost kind of what he's playing right now in terms of games. He went down a list of the different games he's playing. Is there anything in particular that you're playing right now, Falky?
I am trying to play Death Stranding. I find myself being the neat freak that I am in constantly doing deliveries because they're there rather than progressing storyline. So I'm 60 hours in and done about half the story. So I've been playing that. I've been helping my young fella with some Pokemon, setting up some Pokemon in what was the last one, Scarlet and Violet, that do the terror raids and all that sort of stuff. It's actually, when you get into it, there's some really for an RPG. There's some really interesting elements within it. So I'm helping him set up and train up a heap of specialist Pokemon to do a heap of raids, because you can hopefully the rumor is that when ZA comes out, you'll be able to transfer Pokemon in through Pokemon Home into that game. And so we've just been moving Pokemon between games and absolutely annihilating other parts of it and wrapping up stuff. So it's actually quite fun trying to help him. Like, we work out what we need, Pokemon type, Pokemon fighting types, like the move types, and setting them up, getting them maxed out. There's probably 2 or 3 layers underneath, just leveling them up to 100. There's different parts to it underneath, and you can go from something that barely scratches to something that absolutely annihilates. We were one. I don't know if anyone listening knows much about Pokemon, but he's a fanatic on it. And in the terror raids, or the special raids that happen, you can get 6 and 7 stars. Sorry, I've obviously bored him to death with this. You can get 6 and 7 star terror raids where you get shiny Pokemon or specialist Pokemon, or these are the rare ones and whatnot. And if you set up your Pokemon right, you can actually like one hit kill some of these in some of these raids where people are just tearing their hair out, going, "Oh, I can't beat them, I can't scratch them, I can hardly touch them." It's like, we did this and we one hit killed them because we maxed out their power, and it just absolutely annihilates them. But because I'm an RPG fanatic, I find that sort of stuff fun. So I've been helping him with a bit of that. I've been helping him play Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. He's been having a bit of fun with that, and I've been helping him work through his introduction to first. I know it's not a genuine one, but it's his first introduction to a first-person horror game. And he's having a bit of fun with that, even though it's more of a puzzler than a horror game. Yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing whilst trying to get this audit finished. I've been helping rather than playing, but hopefully in the next few weeks I'll get a chance to get Death Stranding finished. And I noticed that Unicorn Overlord popped into PS Plus this month, just gone.
It did. Yes, it did.
So,
good month for PlayStation Plus, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm very keen to get into that game. I've been waiting for it to come on sale. So it's now on sale and it's in the subscription. So probably going to drop a bit of coin on that one and crack into that because I'm super keen to play that one. And Sword of the Sands. Is it Sword of the Sands?
So
Sword of
I
the
think
Sea.
it's Sword of the Sand, Sword of the Sea, or Sword of the Sands. I don't remember. I would see. That's where I get confused.
Sword of the Sea.
Sword of the
thank you,
Sea.
Logic.
I'm hoping to get that one knocked over in a weekend, in the next weekend or so. From what I've been told in some of the chat groups and friend groups, and I've seen online, it should be a good little relaxing game, and I'm keen to give that one a try too. So yeah,
It's the perfect game to play on your portal. It is like the perfect game to sit in bed on the portal and just let the music and the vibe of the game just take you away.
Brilliant. I'll definitely hit it up on the portal. And I've been waiting to get a game that's I can get onto there and play well with it. So that sounds good to me.
Yeah, I really I don't know if you heard the conversation earlier, Falky, but I did mention a Logic. My game time has been a bit spotty as of late because of just my schedule at the moment. It's just a lot of running around with sports and work and stuff like that. And
yep,
I was like, maybe I need to buy a PlayStation Portal. Allows me to lay in bed and maybe lay in bed for about 30 minutes or so, get some gaming time in without having to go downstairs into the gaming room to the man cave. It's Vanillaware, by the way, the developers behind Unicorn Overlord. There's another game that released prior to Unicorn Overlord, which is what's it, Aegis 13 or
Aegis 13.
Sentinel
13 Aegis Rim.
Yeah, thank you. I had it backwards. Yeah, that was actually a pretty good game. So yeah, that's Unicorn Overlord has been on my list, my to-do list for quite some time. Again, I don't have as much gaming time as I used to, but anyhow, I'll figure it out. But that's awesome, Falky. Speaking of Pokemon, I do have a coworker whose son is, I think, ranked like the top 10 globally in Pokemon. Ooh. And he's like in 8th grade, I think, and he makes like 65 grand a year, like playing Pokemon tournaments.
Yeah, nuts. It's big dollars. And it's still massive. I mean, people underestimate how big ZA is going to be when it launches in 6 or 7 weeks time. That thing's going to move some units.
Well, it's interesting. I wasn't even aware that they had Pokemon tournaments like that. And he's traveled to, I think he was in the UK recently for this tournament. I say recently, but earlier in the year. So I just again didn't really know it was that like a thing like that. So, but not bad for somebody who's probably 13 years old to be making, $65,000 US a year at that age.
He'll be retired before he finishes school.
Exactly. So, speaking of Nintendo Switch, I know Logic, you mentioned you're playing on the Nintendo Switch too. Our good friend Matt Piscatella, who's been on the show before, He said he released MPD numbers today. The Switch 2, and IGN had this article too. The Switch 2, Nintendo Switch 2, second month on the market, was another explosive one, at least in the US, where it surpassed 2 million units sold live to date, putting it 75% of the unit sales pace set by the Nintendo Switch 1. Interesting. Gentlemen, any thoughts on that? On how on Nintendo Switch 2 being ahead of the unit sale pace of the Nintendo Switch 1. We know how well the Nintendo Switch sold. Any surprises here? Falky, I'll call on you, sir.
I don't know if you'd say it's surprising. I mean, it's one of those. There's multiple ways of looking at it. What the thing that when I saw this, it spat out came immediately to mind was it's really smart that PlayStation and Nintendo don't launch stuff at the same time. That they're on alternate cycles because then they can get maximum value out of their launch windows. It's not surprising that the Switch 2 has just gone gangbusters because of the market that it's aiming at. What I am a little bit surprised of, though, is that there's this sort of excuse me. It's like there's a tail off coming right before the big say the show season, because obviously these numbers are to the end of July, aren't they? They won't be to the end of August. So if this is to the end of July, and then we had some not Summer Games Fest, was it Gamescom or whatever it was, and we've had a heap of Nintendo Directs and Pokemon ZA's coming in October, and we've got something else coming in back end of November, and then it'll be the Christmas sales, will be the bundle packages there. I think it's gonna continue to have another peak, and it'll go pretty hard for the next 6 months, I reckon. I was just a little bit surprised at how the performance was tracking in relation to the Switch 1, because it's launched at a completely different time of year than what the original Switch did. So I think lining them up is a bit of a. I don't think it's a fair comparative. If you're trying to do the deep dive on the data in that respect, you'd be better off to align them to the corresponding month. But it is what it is. These things are going to do big numbers for the next 6 months.
Yeah. To add to his point, there was a whole lot of discourse on social media about, the pricing of it and how well it was going to do or wasn't going to do. And I simply just said, this is Nintendo that we're talking about. And they've catered and they've kind of cultivated their fan base and to not only their fan base, but also to the consumer, the true consumer market, right? The parents that are buying these for their children, the hardcore fan base, no matter what platform is going to buy the product, right? But the continued, escalation in sales and even surpassing is just kind of testament to just, I guess the brand popularity that Nintendo has created, and no matter what you would have priced that thing at, or no matter what the performance is, or no matter what the added peripheral cost is, people are going out and buying this in droves. So obviously, kudos, I guess, to Nintendo. They knew what they were doing, and they followed the breadcrumbs to success once again, and they just really cornered that niche and catered specifically to their audience, and it shows as in their sales.
Interesting. It sounds like what you're describing is this curated ecosystem, Ghost, that has a bit of stickiness to it, that also attracts newer consumers.
Yeah,
which I'll discuss later. But it's interesting. I remember a lot of there was some speculation around will this sell well because of the increased price, and again, I think we'll see what happens. As the year goes on, but considering how well the Nintendo Switch has done, and I think you bring up a great point, Falky. Maybe it's not a great apples to apples comparison per se, but But it's going to be interesting to see how this thing
Will it
continues
have
to
legs?
sell through the holidays. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ghost.
Yeah, but basically, will it have legs?
Yeah.
You know? And I just think that, like, when you talk about like this, the overall pricing, this year before it was launched, and we get NPD of just the Switch One, and if you look at the Japanese numbers, you look at the American numbers, it was still selling, million or hundreds of thousands and worldwide millions at the end of its cycle. And so if those people had, 300, 200, 300, whatever the price is of disposable income to buy even more Switches, then what was 450, what was 500, to them to get a brand new one. So I think, the real question is, will it have legs, year two, or if the more handheld become prevalent in the gaming space. And I just think that it will. It is Nintendo, and parents and young adults can associate. Parents can assert the nostalgia of Nintendo, right? And kids, price point and the family friendly games, there's a synergy in that, and Nintendo's capitalized on it. And I'm not a Nintendo fan. I mean, we bought a Switch too, and my youngster played it, and he's upstairs playing his Portal right now. Like he's touched it. He maybe logged 15 hours in it. And so it didn't appeal to him as he, gravitated towards PC, PlayStation, whatever. But, my younger grandkids, they come over and what are they playing? They're playing the Switch, or they're playing the new Switch 2. And so I just think that they did a really good job of like I said, cultivating that fan base and that consumer fan base.
Yeah. It's interesting.
In general, Ghost, I absolutely agree with you. I will say this week, it hit me, I think, as a kind of epiphany moment. Because like I said, I've been playing on the Nintendo Switch 2 a lot this week. Actually, a lot over the last couple of weeks. It kind of struck me out of the blue that I don't think, though, this is going to be another 8-year life cycle. I was handling it, and I was thinking about the specs, and I was thinking about the performance, and the console in the console's great right now. Like, it's fine right now. I think it hit me, though, that I'm like, I don't think this chipset and this technology is going to serve them for another 8-year life cycle. I think they're going to have to go sooner, and I'm curious if there will, not be like the mid-gen faux refresh that we saw like with the OLED, but if we're going to wind up seeing something more like, a Super Switch 2 or something with an actual spec bump, 4 years in.
Like a almost like a Switch Pro type scenario.
Yeah, if they don't just do a shorter, what in fact is actually a traditional console life cycle, because most youngsters around today don't remember that console life cycles used to be 4 or 5 years. I think there's a good chance of I think there's a good chance of them doing one of those two things.
Well, Logic, that's the old way, by the way, 4 or 5 years.
Right.
But yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, there are rumors that Starfield will be making its way to the Switch too. I think Logic responded, "How are they going to cram all those sandwiches?"
I mean, clearly, there's
that's
no
a fair
way.
Point, though.
There's no way with the Switch 2's compute that you could track, a table full of 48 sandwiches 9 million light years on the other side of the universe, and keep track of that in memory, because that was important for Starfield and was why it launched at 30 frames per second. So I don't know how they're going to pull that off. I will say, on a serious tip, it has been super curious to me, because we haven't heard about like the inside like business dealings. Obviously, Ubisoft was signed on to do games for the original Switch that required a cloud lift for processing power. As far as I know, we haven't heard anything like that for the Switch 2. And I don't think any games have landed yet that require a cloud lift. It seems like the specs that they packed into the Switch and everything that's been oriented around.
I'm sorry, real quick, I got to step away, but go ahead, Logic. I'll be right back.
Okay. But in everything that's been oriented around, the 60. I can't remember how big the digital game key cards are, I want to say the biggest one is 64 gigs. That everything was oriented around them trying to avoid having to do Cloud Lift. And so I don't know whether or not that deal and partnership and go-to-market arrangement with Ubitus is still in place. It seems like in order to make Call of Duty run on the Switch 2, particularly for the multiplayer, it seems like there's going to need to be some Cloud Lift involved. So I don't know if they've made a deal with Microsoft to do that on Azure or what exactly. Anything else? BRAP has this list up. Anything else that you guys can see on the list that kind of stands out at you as surprising?
Nothing that sticks out to my mind other than I'm just saying that Red Dead Redemption 2's gone up.
All right. Sorry about that. I'm back.
Oh, you're right. The football ones being at the top is pretty cool.
Are you talking about college football?
Yeah. I
So
I think that's really cool. That's a great, bringing that one back on was great. That was a great idea from them.
Yeah, that's interesting because I mean that game was how long that game was MIA for what, like a decade maybe? Was it that long?
Yeah, it was a while. They're bringing college basketball. I think is the next one that I'm not sure if it's EA or if it's Take Two that are trying to do it, but college basketball was one that was being pushed as well.
I was a big fan of NCAA basketball when EA had it. I wasn't aware that's coming back, but it's interesting. Like you look at the MPD numbers, and I feel like every July, August, whatever, the EA games, the Maddens and Madden's out now. Madden will chart August, but like the EA Sports colleges see that back because they took some time off from the franchise. It's number one, but you know what's really interesting? And let me know what you guys think. And this always goes back to this conversation of games are expensive or gamers aren't going to pay a lot of money for games. And then last year we saw this with EA Sports MVP bundle. Now that is if I'm not mistaken, the $100 bundle that gives you
both Madden and college football.
Yeah, both Madden and college football, right? So is it $100? Let me look this up real quick. I thought it was $100. Look this up real quick. Oh, it is $100. Okay, so
is it?
Well, no, actually, it's $100 at Walmart. It's $150 at Best Buy. It's $150 at PlayStation Store. There's a kickoff bundle that's $100. So it looks like there's different bundles here. Yeah, so the kickoff. Okay, so the EA Sports kickoff bundle, Madden, NFL 26, and college football 26 is $100. And then there's the MVP bundle, which is charted here. That's $150. And so it's charted number 2. And so, for me, this makes me think of the conversation that we often hear around, games being expensive and gamers not wanting to, Falky, you're making me laugh because like I see you like leaning into the screen because you're trying to read the I'm sorry, I'm gonna laugh.
I know it's all right. I'm half blind. I'm just there's a couple of things there that I can actually see it. I'm noticing and I'm going, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Hang on, there's one game on here that's completely missing.
But no, it's just fascinating because we always talk about the market, right? And how Logic's talked about the free market and how, and it always ties the conversation around, the market will dictate or decide what it will or will not pay for, right? Or accept in terms of price. And then we see this $150 bundle, which it charted last year, from what I remember. It's charted number 2 now. So, I mean, clearly this thing is I guess my point is gamers are willing to spend money. Right. And I think that, sometimes I think the conversation around games being too expensive or, games should be cheaper. I get it. But sometimes I do think it's a bit blown out of proportion. When at least in my opinion, when I see things like this, when I see a bundle, because someone said something to me this week, oh, well, gamers aren't going to spend $100 for games. I'm like, well, are you kidding me? They do that all the time. They do it for, special launch editions of, a particular franchise. And then you see the MVP bundle at $150. So clearly there is a segment of the market that is going to go out and spend that kind of money on these games. Again, not everyone, but there is a market. Yeah, go ahead.
And so here's more. So I mean, if you came by for the sermon, please take your seat in the pew because the fire and brimstone is about to start. Here we are yet another month looking at an NPD chart. And what titles are here in the top 20 list? Donkey Kong Bonanza, a console exclusive. Grounded 2 is only on Xbox Series X and is only on the Xbox Series and PC right now. Death Stranding 2 on the beach, console exclusive. Marvel Spider-Man 2, which according to one popular podcaster doesn't sell, never sells. Here it is yet again, years after release, placing in the top of the charts.
Did you say popular podcaster?
I mean, based on how frequently his name gets bandied around, but also based on the talking points that constantly come out of that podcast that people carry forth.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Maybe he's the Xbox Moses that you keep talking about.
Lead us to the promised land. Is he taking?
And the snowball is going to start to run downhill. This is why we get frustrated when there is objective evidence that points at a state of fact on the market. And we are constantly in arguments with content creators who put out misinformation and disinformation and people who argue with us about these points. When we are sitting right here, yet again, looking at these things happening on the chart, like we do literally every month. This isn't new. It has been consistent since the beginning of this generation.
I obviously, I 110% agree with you. And I think, and it's interesting that particular podcaster said Spider-Man 2 doesn't sell. And here we are, Spider-Man 2. And by the way, it charted NPD. It was NPD. It was ranked 21st or 21st last month. And now it's creeped up to the top 20. So if it moved up from the 21st spot last month to the 19th spot, that tells you there's an increase in sales. It's an exclusive. Death Stranding 2 on the beach is an exclusive. It's still in the top 10. It was number 2 the month before. To your point, Logic, Donkey Kong Bonanza is an exclusive. This idea, and Falky, I think you probably agree with us too. This idea that exclusives don't matter, or they're not why people buy games, and yet we look at the we look at 3 games in the top 20, actually 4, because I'm going to throw Grounded 2 in there because it is. I get it's on PC, but it is still console exclusive because it's not on PlayStation, right? 4 games in the top 20 that are exclusives. That said something. And I don't know why people are arguing against facts. If these things didn't hold value in the market, they wouldn't be charting in NPD or Circana. They just wouldn't. If they didn't have value, if they didn't matter, we wouldn't see these things charting. And yet you have people arguing against exclusives. It is mind-boggling to me. It makes 0 sense. Falky, you have any thoughts on this?
Plenty of thoughts. People arguing against known and proven sales tactics from the last 150 to 200 years because they sit on their asses and think they know better with no formal education or understanding of the science or the mathematics behind how this works. That's a tricky one, isn't it?
Consumer economics, consumer psychology. I mean,
economics 101, supply and demand. If it's only available in one spot and people want to play it, guess what they'll do? They'll spend the money to play it. Anyway,
It's
yeah.
Falky, it's
The-
mad.
the-
It's crazy. It's crazy talk to me at this point now. But I'm sorry. Go
Well,
ahead.
it is, and people should know better because they've been schooled enough on it as it stands. But obviously, they don't know what they don't know, and they're too, I don't know, they're too set in their own beliefs to actually bother to learn, which is scary in its own sense. I just think my perspective of it. So this is my opinion. So people can argue if they like, but it's my opinion, which doesn't make it wrong. It's just my perspective of this with the knowledge and understanding that I have, which is probably more than most. If you've got a game, if you look at those top listings, if you've got a game that is multi-platform and you're selling big numbers, so the top couple of games that are in that list, right? You've got big numbers going on there, but that's short term. Big hit, short tail. There's no tail on those things. Look at FC25. It's plummeting down that list now. It hasn't been out for that long. EA said last time that they just didn't get the tail on it like they were expecting.
Fucking just a one note on that. So actually, that FC25, that's last year's FC25.
Yeah. So, oh, sorry, that's the game that's missing, FC26.
Right. Yeah. Which isn't out yet.
It isn't out yet. But look at some of these, like the Tony Hawk game. Yeah, that's a nostalgia hit. That's not going to go very, very long. But the games that are on there that are, I suppose, exclusive are not. They're not going to be. They're not going to be constantly showing up in here because this is based off revenue generated. As it says at the top. Top 20 best-selling games, physical and full game digital from the Nintendo eShop, PlayStation, Xbox, and PC platforms for publishers in the digital leader, blah, 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 blah. Where's the Steam games? We want to talk about games that are exclusive to a platform or an ecosystem. Why don't we ever talk about Steam games in this? And that's and it might sound like I'm arguing against what's just been said, but it's actually enforcing the point. How many games are there on Steam that you cannot get anywhere else? And you look at that as a charting point, and that would dwarf some of the stuff that's on here. And the only stuff that's multi-platform would be the sporting games that have annual releases that have to be multi-platform because they're annual releases. You take all the annual releases out of this list and look what happens. Take the live service games out of this list and look what happens. Like, the fact that Minecraft is still in this chart is insane, but that's the entry level for so many new people coming into gaming. Forza Horizon 5 sitting in there in the top 10 still is interesting because they're not selling that game on Xbox, they're selling that game on PlayStation. Some of the other ones that are making chart entries, they're always in there. Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2 are always in the top 20. Because they've just long tails on them. But again, they're old games. If you're talking about new games coming in, the exclusive ones are the ones that really make the impact.
So Foggy, I think Steam games are in here. He doesn't have it out this month. So I want to say, was it last month? There was a chart that they recently put out that showed like what storefronts report. And I'm pretty sure Steam was in there because this says, because it threw me off too. It does say in that monthly chart, Xbox and PC platforms for publishers in the digital leader panel. And I want to say that from that matrix, Steam, I was pretty sure was in there. But this is for. But I think I want to say I think this chart is sales. So it does not. What it doesn't include is to get to your point is it doesn't include microtransaction revenue.
Yes. Absolutely, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So anyway, technicalities aside, because I'm getting lost in the detail here of my thoughts, so I apologize to the audience for that. The the multi-platform ones that do any good are the annual release ones. As soon as you step away from annual releases, anything that's multi-plat just hits and gone. The ones that have got the big tails on them that you can see at the bottom end of that list, Elden Ring, and it's in there again because of its DLC that popped up. Split Fiction's hanging around like a, but it's not that old. And the one that's surprising me is Marvel's Spider-Man 2. It's hanging in the back end of the top 20, and it's only sort of hung around the bottom end of the top 20. But Spider-Man's an exclusive, and it's an older game. The ones that are no longer exclusive, there's no real new ones in there other than Donkey Kong Bonanza and Grounded 2, as you pointed out. Everything else is either live service or has got a long tail on it because it's just a monster game and dominating the top 20 as it has. Like, how many times has Grand Theft Auto 5 been out of the top 20? It just hangs on and hangs on and hangs on because they are monster games. I would not be surprised if Death Stranding 2 is out of the top 20 by the time we get to next month. But likewise, there's a number of these that'll hit and chart in the top 20 and then they'll just fall out. Regardless of whether they're, should say platform exclusive or not, but they just flush through. And the dominance because of the multi-platform approach is those that are annual releases or live service, desired live service. And that's just the nature of the beast. If you've got a game that's neither of those two things, the only real way you're going to get traction on it is to consider it being an exclusive into a platform, because you're going to get lost in the wash against the other ones if you don't focus on that. And again, that comes back to supply and demand, as you were saying before, logic and BRAP. There's an element of market, consumer application, market engagement, and all the rest of it. If you want to make a game and sell it, there's only 2 platforms with that, or 3 platforms that they'll buy it. If you want to just make a game, take a check and put it into a subscription service, you can do that anywhere. But this is specifically looking at sales, and you've got to be very careful about what's in and out of this, because this isn't the whole picture, as you can see by the asterisks and the arrows and all the rest of it down the bottom. Donkey Kong Bonanza is excluding digital sales on Nintendo platforms. So if it's being sold as a bundle, as in the bundle, did it get sold in the bundle? I think they've got some bundles for it somewhere. If it's been in the bundle, but it's the digital version in the bundles, they're not included in here. So they could quite easily be number 1 by a long way in actual. Same with the what's the other one? The Minecraft one. It's not including digital sales. MLB The Show's not including Nintendo and Xbox platform digital sales. So it's an indication list, but I suppose coming back to the point, it's not the be all and end all list. This is just an indication list based off the information they can get. It could be in actual fact, it could be quite different. But the fact that people want to argue the toss about where things sit on this list, which is not a complete data set, and then use this to argue for and or against multi-platform approach. Like, people will say, oh, look at Microsoft Corp. They've got 4 in the top 10. I'm like, yeah, but EA's got what, 4, 5, 6 in the top 20. Take-Two's got 4 in there. Like, it's dominated by 5 different publishing houses in the top 20, but this is the US only. So anyway, sorry, I'm prattling on here, but the point that I'm trying to make is, if you're going to use this as your anchor point for an argument, either for or against, whether exclusives matter or whether they don't, multi-platform matters or whatnot, you are destined to fail, because it's not a complete data set, and it masks the actual next level down of what's actually dominating in that region. And at the moment, this list is saying, for what's on here, excluding all that stuff that's missing, it's the annual releases. If you look up and down that list, it's annual releases and monster-sized games that are dominating it.
Yeah, that's a great point, Falky. Let me grab the super chat here real quick. We have Glassdoor Gamer with a $5 Canadian super chat. Thank you. says Moore's Law is dead. Leaked the PlayStation handheld. It's going to be more powerful than the ROG Ally X, and he believes will be priced at $400 to compete. Thank you for that super chat. I did share that tweet earlier from Moore's Law is dead. I have not watched the video just yet, but we'll watch it tomorrow. I don't know. It's funny. I think Logic said this earlier. Every time, and I've tried to be PC about this, but when because I again just what comes across my dashboard is in terms of content creators, influencers. It's typically the not all Xbox content creators, influencers do this, but many do. They tend to say one thing and then or predict one thing, say one thing, predict another thing, and then the market does the complete opposite of what they said was going to happen, or what they predicted was going to happen. And to me, this list is just that again. Spider-Man 2 doesn't sell. Here it is. It's number 19th in MPD. It was released, 2 years ago? I forget, maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah, about 2 years ago.
2 years ago. An exclusive game, right? And the argument is that exclusives don't sell. That exclusives are anti-consumer, that nobody wants exclusives. They don't matter. It's charted 19. You have Donkey Kong Bonanza. You have Grounded 2. Am I missing Death Stranding 2 on the beach? All exclusives.
And DK Bonanza does not include the digital sales.
Yes, and doesn't include digital sales.
So it's absolutely insane. And I get that it's the US chart only. It's absolutely insane to me that the thought that DK Bonanza is only including the physical sales at retail in the US and is where it is on that chart without including the digital sales.
That's to me, that's anytime Nintendo charts NPD or Circana here in the US, because they never include digital. Like I am always impressed by that fact, because good Lord, how many, I mean, like how many sales digital are we unaware of? Like
somebody can double check with that. I'm pretty that's a Nintendo Switch 2 only game, right?
Yeah,
it is.
And now, so then the next question is, and I'd be keen to hear from Matt a little bit more in the detail about this one, is because if it's digital, if it's excluding digital only, so it's digital only from the storefront, that means that it's including every cartridge that's been sold. But in the bundle packs, like this was with the Mario Kart one, and that's interestingly not on here, is it? I didn't see Mario Kart 8 on there. Or 9 or whatever the Mario Kart game is. It's not on
the Mario Kart World.
Yeah, Mario Kart World's not on there.
No.
So in the bundles, you get the code, but you don't get the cartridge, is my understanding. Well, I haven't got one yet, so I don't know. But is that the case? Because if that's the case, then all the bundle packs aren't included in here either.
Yeah, so I'm answering yes to the first one. Not that I it's unclear to me whether or not but yes, so yes, the game key cards are just a key to authorize you to download the content. So it's not the actual game. What's unclear to me is whether or not that counts then as a physical sale or a digital sale, and whether or not it's included in here.
But again, we're looking at a really curated snapshot of what data is available, and if those sort of things are excluded, then it's a distorted view, isn't it? I'm sure we've spoken about this in the past. I'm almost certain that I'm having like deja vu that we've had this conversation a couple of times, that this is an indication, like VG charts. Everyone goes, things not accurate. I'm like, if it's plus or minus 5%, it's a great estimate because it indicates what's going on, but it's not a holistic view. Again, and
yeah, I mean, I think we've had. I mean, the conversation that we've had that I remember is like, so they have NPD for whatever reason has more recently, and I think I know the reason, has more recently also started publishing their engagement lists, and we have definitely said that those engagement lists do not show what we think they show. Ditto for the the PlayStation blog. I don't know if they still do it. They may have stopped doing it. The PlayStation blog for a very long time would publish its most downloaded list, which after a few months of seeing it, we realized does not show what doesn't show what you think it shows in terms of the conclusions you would draw. And in this one, we have always said like there's a number of digital sales that aren't shown here, in particular for Nintendo. But yeah, I mean, I think the best that we know is that minus the digital sales, it shows what's going on at retail in America and with the US and China being your two largest revenue generators for the gaming industry. That's a worthwhile snapshot, I think, from the picture we're getting.
So this is saying top 20 best-selling games, physical and full game digital from the Nintendo eShop, PlayStation, Xbox, and PC platforms for publishers in the digital leader panel.
Right, but then what you have to do is then you have to go down to the per title one and see where there are exceptions and caveats.
I see what you're saying. Okay, I see it right here. Donkey Kong Bonanza. Yep. I see it right here. Okay.
So, and yeah, verily, right, there's at least the chart I'm looking at, and I've gone on to the next chart. The chart here is also saying that the digital sales on Xbox aren't included in certain ones.
Yeah, but it looks like Donkey Kong, though, is actually included because it doesn't have that, I don't know, was that an arrow?
So I'm looking at the top 20 games year to date, and on that chart, DK Bonanza says digital sales not included for marked titles.
Oh, you're looking at top 20 year to date. Okay, I was looking at top 20 for the month of July.
Yeah, they've got two different marks on the same with the legend on the same line. So the asterisk is digital sales not included for marked titles, and on the same line it says that the caret digital sales on Nintendo platforms not included.
Okay.
So I think those are two different marks. So when you look at that caret on something like Minecraft, what that means is Minecraft includes all of the physical and digital sales on all platforms with the exception of Nintendo.
Okay. All right. Do you want to move on here? Hardware, according to Matt Piscatella, monthly hardware spending grew 21% when compared to a year ago to $384 million. This is the highest hardware spending in a July month since $444 million achieved in July 2008. Holy moly. How much of that is, I guess the Nintendo Switch 2 is probably driving a lot of that. Let's see here. Hardware, Nintendo Switch 2 is now, okay, we already talked about that earlier. Nintendo Switch 2 drove July's hardware spending growth. That's okay. So my guess was right. July dollar sales of PS5 hardware fell 47% compared to a year ago, while Xbox Series spending dropped by 69%. Nintendo Switch spending declined 15% year on year. Why do you? Let me ask you, Funky. What do you think is driving the decline for PS5 hardware failing? Is that just a lack of big tentpole releases? What do you think's behind that? Falky's on mute. All right, I'll get back to Falky. Let me go down this list here. What about you, Logic? Any thoughts on that? On the PS5 decline?
I mean, I think that's economic impact that everybody's clenching fists. Yeah. I think Days of Play hit, and there was a big toilet bowl whoosh of PlayStation hardware sales. And I think in the month since, now that tariffs are hitting, that everybody's tightening back up.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that. That may be the case with PlayStation. I'd have to go back and pull. Be interesting to go back and look at the June numbers for PlayStation, see what the decline was, if there was a decline or not. I don't remember. Let's see here. Hardware, Nintendo Switch 2, best-selling video game hardware in units and dollars for both July and 2025 year to date. PlayStation 5 ranked second across both measures and time periods. In terms of content, July video game content spending increased 4% when compared to a year ago to $4.5 billion. The increase was driven by growth in mobile, plus 7% in July versus a year ago to $2.3 billion, And non-mobile subscription plus 21%, segments with offsets a 9% drop in spending a console. Matt talked about the increase in subscription spending. You and I have talked about this, Logic. I think we both agree that with the tightening of belts of people maybe spending less because of some of the impacts, inflation's ticking up a bit, tariffs, that we could see additional subscription growth. These things, the economy, at least here in the U.S., maybe globally too, tends to where there's increased inflation, things like that, that we could see those the subscription number kind of go up a bit. I think Matt may have reported that last June. I think that was something he was seeing. I don't remember.
Yeah, that was the beginning of the year. I think in February.
Was the beginning of the year? Okay, I'm off by months, but let's see. It also says content year-to-date spending on mobile video game subscription service is now 19% higher than a year ago. So there you go. There was some other. But he had some other. I feel like I'm missing stuff here from Matt's. He usually listens by platform. I don't see that. Oh, here we go. Scroll down here. All right, best-selling games on PlayStation, EA Sports College Football 26, EA Sports MVP bundle. Again, that's the $150 bundle. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Death Stranding 2, On the Beach, number 5, Forza Horizon 5, 6, MLB The Show 7, Grand Theft Auto 5. Grand Theft Auto is just, how does this thing keep charting? Am I missing something with the Grand Theft Auto? I forget what it was. It wasn't. It was like, I think it was charted like top 10 for a couple of years straight or something crazy. People were buying. Was it Logic? Was it people were buying the copy of GTA 5 for the shark card or something? Is that what was driving that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. But yeah, I mean, we've been tracking the same phenomena for, however long this thing has been out for. It keeps showing up on the MPD charts. And here most significantly, it's showing up on the year to date. So GTA 6 gets delayed for a year, and what do people do? They keep buying GTA 5.
Yeah, it's like, I can't get my GTA 6 fix, so I got to go out and buy GTA 5 now. Which leads me to believe that GTA 6, Logic, may be one of the biggest retail releases ever. And I say that just based on the fact that game for years charted NPD and is back charting. Well, I keep saying NPD, but it's Circana now. It's like Glacian 3 says the game doesn't die.
Yeah, and I just don't get it. Like, I mean, so we talked about, like, this doesn't include microtransaction content. So I'm like, who are all these people buying GTA 5?
There's a GTA Moses. He's leading people to the promised land. I mean,
I can't believe that's people just buying it over and over and over and over again.
So I mean, where are these people coming from? Because you're right. Like I now, is GTA 5, is it cross-platform? Like if you bought it on Xbox One or PS4, and you upgrade either one of those consoles, is it, there's like an upgrade path for that, or do you just continue playing does it work on the PS5, or do you have to rebuy the copy?
So apparently the online servers are not cross-platform. So, I mean, this could possibly be people buying it on multiple platforms. Yeah, this is off a quick Google. So, I mean, there may be hardcore GTA 5 players out there who know better than I do. Players on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox are on separate servers and cannot play together. If you play on PlayStation, you can only play with other PlayStation users, and so on for PC and Xbox. Now, there are unofficial workarounds. There are private servers, jailbroken consoles. But you've got to do the science experiment to get onto those.
Yeah, I'm not down for doing the science experiments. I used to do that a long time ago. Corey Mass say PS4, PS5 versions are separate SKUs. So I got to imagine then, Lodge, that it's just that people maybe upgrading their consoles, either going to Series X or Xbox Series console, then PS5, and then buying the upgraded version.
Yes, I don't
PS5 version.
I don't disagree that explains some of it. I don't think it explains enough of it as to what the warrant showing up on this chart every other month.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
unless there's this crazy hypothesis that I've offered, BRAP, that people like to argue with me about. Maybe there's this possibility that consoles are not actually just being resold, right, 3, 4, 5 generations over to the exact same people. That maybe there are people who actually like get old and stop gaming or game less and don't buy every single console. And maybe those people are actually replaced with new consumers from younger generations. Right. And so, yay, verily, maybe the number of the pool doesn't change, but it's actually not the same exact human beings that are buying the same console all over and over and over again. That some percentage of the market ages out and some percentage of new influx comes in, which means, in terms of Matt Piscatella's comment about exclusives, maybe there's this thing that there's not just a thing about consumer defection from a platform, but you actually have to worry about consumer acquisition as well. And so maybe those are the people who are buying GTA 5.
Nah, the glass is the cup is full, Logic. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
People don't buy the younger. That's the old way. Yeah, the younger generation of gamers, they play on tablets. They're not interested in consoles.
Yeah, I should look that up. Is GTA 5 on mobile?
No, I don't think it is.
I know it's not.
Okay, I was like, no.
There are isn't like Liberty City Stories, like something like that?
There was a GTA mobile game. Maybe it was Liberty City Stories. There was something. I
thought they took like the PSP things, like in the small titles, and made mobile versions of those, but I could be wrong.
I think they did. Let me look this up real quick.
Actually, you know what, Brad? Yeah, so older versions of GTA are on mobile.
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is on mobile.
Yeah, like I played Vice City Stories on. I played Vice City on mobile.
There's a GTA 5 mobile game that's there.
Right. So at GTA 5 it's not a port, but older versions have actually been ported. I'm not sure how far forward they go.
No, I don't disagree, Logic, that there could be newer consumers entering the console market. But there is a group out there that has this narrative that the console space isn't growing, it's mature, and they aren't new consumers entering the space. Look, I don't disagree with the idea that sure that console growth isn't what it was 20 years ago. It may never see that growth that it was that it's all 20 years ago. But I'm not going to argue and say there's no growth. There is some growth. We talked about I did that BRAP rant where I talked about compound annual growth rate in the console space. There is projected growth in the console space, and not just here. I often think that people tend to focus specifically on the U.S., particularly those who reside here in the U.S. And they see how how mature the market is, and then you hear things like the China Hero Project, the India Hero Project. You hear about investments that Microsoft and PlayStation are making in Africa. these emerging markets in Southeast Asia, which I think, Falke, you may have talked about in the past as relates to console gaming. So there's potential opportunities for growth in the console space outside of these more mature markets. Go ahead, Falke. I think you were to say something.
No, I was just agreeing with you. We've spoken about this stuff, different areas, and where the growth is coming from, the projected growth is coming from. It's particularly in the console space. So it's not like it's dying, and it's not exactly flatline either. It's just got a really small growth number projected out for the next 3 to 5 years. Nintendo talks about it, and PlayStation talks about it. The only one who doesn't talk about it is Xbox, who's in the console space at the moment, because they're not going to get much out of that low growth point, because they're so, the gap is huge. But they're all, you look at all the different growth parts as well. PC's not exactly growing gangbusters either. Mobile's slowed down a bit, so the whole thing is starting to slow down in terms of percentage number. But when you add numbers that big, $1 billion increase into that market is magnitudes less now than it was 10 years ago. And that's why the percentage numbers, like the CAGR, is compounded annual growth rate, is reducing so much. And that's where the panic comes to a large degree from some investors and some bodies going, oh, it's flatlining or it's dying. It's like, no, it's just not growing as fast as it was in terms of a percentage. But in terms of actual volume of dollars, it is still roaring ahead at a rate of knots. But you saying before, apologies for being stepped away for so long, is where do you get the additional revenue from when you've got to grow at a percentage rate, not at a dollar number, at a volume? And PlayStation's in their last reports just saying the same thing. We're finding that nearly a quarter of new PS5 owners and PS5 Pro owners are coming not from our PS4 conversion, they're new customers to PlayStation. So they're coming from somewhere. They're either coming over from Xbox or they're coming over from Nintendo, but the numbers there don't suggest that it's a straight swap. It's a secondary or tertiary engagement. Sony doesn't care. And it's the same with Nintendo. Are you buying a Switch after you've bought the PlayStation 5? We don't care. It's still buying our product and you're still buying our games. But it's the different markets where it's happening. India, China, parts of the Middle East and North Africa. And you can see where the investment's going there. But and that's a stark contrast to what's happening in the US. The US in isolation is flatlined. Absolutely hit its max, and it's not showing any signs of cranking up again. So
I'm offended by that, Falke. I feel like you're picking on the US.
Well, it is the largest market, and in terms of percentages, obviously.
There's still some growth though in North America. It is not, because I pulled. Speaking of Big Four, PwC had an analysis on the compound annual growth rate in North America. It is single digits. It's clearly not as high as some of the other emerging markets.
Low single digits. Come on, get it accurate. Low single digits.
Well, I think it was like somewhere around 7 or 8%. I have to go back and look. I wouldn't say it wasn't like below 3% or anything like that. But it was like 7 or 8%. Yeah, it was. Yeah. But like some of the other, like Africa was double digits. I think China may have been double digits or close to it. Yeah. So there are these other emerging markets, and that's why, and that's also what frustrates me about the argument that the consoles are dying and that this is the old way. Look, I'm not arguing that the way we've engaged or the way consoles were used to be made has changed, or that the platform owners haven't evolved. Clearly they've evolved. Logic always talks about this. People are saying, oh, the industry is changing. Logic always says, hey, the industry is always changing. It is. If you've been gaming as long as we have, you know that. I mean, and I use the example, like 40 years ago, a console did one thing. It fucking played video games. That was it. It didn't do anything else. Now it's just an entertainment hub. It's a social media hub. It is It does all these other things besides play video games. And that is through evolution and adapting to the wants of or needs of consumers. And so
it's as you say that there's yet to be a different model that works, and some have fiddled with it. Like you say, it's evolved to a point, but it's still got that same core business. The ones that work well is the same core business structure with some stuff bolted on to the fringe, right? It's primarily there as a gaming console. That is what its primary point is. Yes, it does all these other things, but it's not new. Go all the way back to the PS2. What was so unique about the PS2? It was a DVD player. And the popularity of that device at that price point was you didn't have to buy a console and a DVD player separately. It just all came in one. The original PSX or the PlayStation 1, it had a CD player in it. So if you had the big flash TVs with the big sound systems there, you could plug it in and play music. Like it had it all the way back to the conception. There was something else that it could do. PS3 probably tried to bite off more than it could chew in a horrible timing of release of its, trying to do old stuff and new stuff and all the rest of it. But they've sort of settled it in. But and not just with PlayStations, Nintendo's always had great with its handhelds, but it's always struggled with its dedicated console, except for the Wii. The Wii was just a phenomenal thing because it had motion control. And you could get grandma and granddad to play tennis with you because it was just family fun. They've leveraged off the family fun and moved that into a hybrid unit that could be gaming on the go or plugged into a TV. Genius move. And it offers other things. They're not as advanced as the other platforms, but it's still there. But they're offering stuff to consumers. Consumers are responding, going, yes, I'll pay money for that. Yes, I'll pay money for that. But it's still primarily something to do with gaming, and it's got other things around it. No one looks at a TV and decides which TV they're going to buy because it's got this streaming app or that streaming app or it runs this OS system or the rest of it in general consumer terms. But what I'm yet to see is a different business model, even the theory of a different business model that makes what's the old dated and the old fashioned way of doing things not worth doing anymore. And I'm yet to see from any data, historical or projected, of what's occurring where consoles are dying out in any respect. And if they point to absolute sales numbers, like the PS5 is not selling as much as the PS4, I'm like, well, it's not far behind it, and it's probably going to land and do more by the time we get to the end of it. Or the Switch 2 is, it's got its numbers up against the Switch. When you release a line to release, I'm like, well, that's great, but let's get through the first 12 months before we make decisions about whether it's done better or worse. Different trading environments, different economic environments. It's like, just calm down, people. Let it run its course.
When you present them that data, they are skeptical and disbelieving of it, but they want to believe in the data and the statements that Phil Spencer makes.
Yeah, because the Earth is flat. Don't forget, like, just because they choose not to see. I'm going to be a little bit vicious here. The individuals that choose to believe one over the other, which is sales pitch talk, by the way, and can't read between the lines, don't understand what's being said to them because they don't. It's Phil talks directly to the consumer in a tone that makes him look great, but when he never talks to the investors, and the investor talk is the one where you'll understand what the hell's about to happen. Because they don't understand the differences there, they don't want to understand the differences. They'd rather point at data which supports their arguments, which is either false or not complete, or it's made up because someone's taken something, misinterpreted it, and then put it out there as factual. The large number of these people that get on social media, and might I point out that social media, the gamers in social media and influencers in social media make up less than 1% of the total gaming population. So they're shouting into a void that no one's listening, but trying to make themselves feel important for their own self-gratification, their own personal benefit. And there are a number of people who will support them because they like the drama and they like to be involved in the negativity cycles and all the rest of it. And then the gaming media is controlled by 3 companies at the moment almost the entirety of gaming media is controlled by 3 individuals. So there's an argument to say there that it's a very skewed and biased perspective, regardless of how many different shell companies and how many different stages and verticals you go through in terms of ownership and whatnot. They're all towing the same line because they're all owned by the same people. So when you get to this output, what actually matters here and who's actually saying it? A large number of this stuff that's just being spewed out as factual, and God help anyone if they'd want to talk against it. Even coming from people like Aaron Greenberg and what's that other nutcase that loves to get on and spew his mouth about things and he's never right. Pacta.
Yeah.
And those sort of individuals who are supposed experts that just have no clue. When they open their mouth, it's dribble that they've really got no clue what they're talking about. When they keep saying, they've said it for 15 years, consoles are dying. Consoles are dying. And it's not in the data. It's not in the outcomes. And historically, they've been proven wrong from their predictions. So don't call them Nostradamus in any way, shape, or form. But they're misleading on purpose because they're generating revenue from doing that. They're actually making money by being false. And that is what pisses me off the most. They're being purposefully disingenuous and they're purposefully putting out false information and they're making money out of it. And all these people who stand up and thump their chest and say, see, these guys are right. I was 100% right. There's people on social media that I'm 100% right 98% of the time. And not just that particular individual. I'm not picking on that one person, but so many people repeat that now, or this chest thumping about I was the first to break this news. Like, respectfully, the person who put up there in the super chat, great to hear that Moore's law is dead has done some expose of breaking the news about this new handheld and the pricing point and all that. That's all theory and optimism and suggestion, and that may end up not ever happening. That might not ever make it to market. There might be something that happens in the technological advancements between now and when it lands, as Logic said before, and has said numerous times that I have to take my shoes and socks off to count them. The progression of technology and the speed in which things happen means that what's being spoken about today might not even exist tomorrow. And it might be something totally different by the time it lands in the market. And the market might not be interested in doing that. It might not work at all. It might be completely different. So everything's a risk, but these, call them flat earthers, who stand back and point at flawed data and say that is accurate and will not listen to anything else, they can go do one with a rusty fish hook.
And Falky, the full statement is the Earth is flat. There was a second shooter on the grassy knoll. We never landed on the moon, and Sandy Hook never happened.
Oh my goodness!
Next thing they'll tell you that there was only one beach on D-Day, not 3. So something like
gosh! Oh my goodness! Well, so this is because we're coming up on time here, and I wanted to get to this quickly. So I put out a tweet, Falky. I don't know if you saw this. Logic, I know you saw it. Is about Nike, the importance of the Air Jordan brand to Nike and Nike's own ecosystem, and also highlighting what I think is the hypocrisy by people who are saying that exclusives don't matter or arguing against ecosystems that they actively participate in on a daily basis. I said something to the effect that, I'm not going to pull up the tweet, but something to the effect that, look, it's a bit hypocritical for people to shout down exclusives in video games and to say that they're going away, that they don't matter, all while and saying this and doing this while they're sitting wearing their Air Jordans, eating a Big Mac and tweeting from their Apple iPhone. And people just didn't. The responses that I got, and we've said this on this show on many occasions, that people tend to treat the video game industry different for whatever reason. It's subject to the same laws of economics, right? The same things that you know, I forgot what I was going to say now, but anyhow, it's still subject to the laws of economics, like any other consumer good. I think Logic would agree with me. I think you would agree with me, Falky. I think reasonable folks who listen to the show would agree with me. It's no different than other consumer products, other ecosystems, other products that use exclusives to drive consumers to their product. You mentioned it earlier, Falky, supply and demand, right? Economics 101. This isn't rocket science. But for whatever reason, they turn a blind eye to this stuff. And the responses that I received from this tweet, and I don't know if you saw it of them, Falky, and I hope you didn't. Okay. And you didn't respond, which leads me to believe you're like, what the fuck are these people talking about?
I find for my own mental health, I choose not to engage with those types of idiots.
Yes, it's probably wise. But it's and this is why it begs the question. And I really believe, and I've been on this show, I've been very PC about this, but I do think there's a group of individuals, content creators, the Colt Eastwoods, who Colin put out a tweet yesterday, and Colt replied. And I mean, I think you said this, Falky, that there are people out there that are to their own benefit monetizing off of misinformation, being disingenuous. Colt Eastwood is one of them. You know, he is. I mean, he has made. We've had him on the show years ago, but I literally seen him take narratives, right? And then as soon as Xbox changes a specific narrative or they're doing something, he pivots, right? He gets the fan base riled up, says exclusives are going away. He's championing games everywhere being better for everyone, which I think is a very overly simplistic statement, because it's clearly, we talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
Based on the data that we just saw with Circana, we see exclusives still selling well, which means consumers still want them, still value them. Everything that we have, everything that we could point to, tangible data says otherwise to what a lot of these guys are saying about where the market's going. And I've literally watched them for the last 12 years predict things that were going to happen in the market, specifically tied to the Xbox brand, get it wrong. For 13 years, or 12 years, I've seen this on Twitter. They consistently get it wrong. And I'm not saying this to console war. I'm saying this because this is what I've seen. And in light of data, yeah, go ahead, Falky.
I was just going to say, case in point, us three individuals sitting here 2 years ago had a conversation about it's impossible for Xbox to exist and survive if they make everything that they're buying with ABK exclusive to Xbox only. It doesn't matter if it's PC and console. If it was just Xbox only, it would destroy the revenue stream and they would lose too much money. 2 years ago, we were talking about that. And Colt was banging on about, it's great, exclusivity's great. And now, look what he's talking about now. He flips 1 week between exclusivity doesn't matter anymore to, oh, how great is it that Xbox has got these games? Or it's the best place to play these games. Or it's only coming to Xbox. Or how great is this? Like, the way that he flops back and forth, he's got no spine of an opinion at all. But like the one you've got on the screen at the moment, a few years ago, console fans couldn't have those games from other platforms. Now they can, and they found a new high thing to celebrate, which is a far better thing than celebrating exclusivity. This from the person who was effectively demanding that Call of Duty be exclusive into Game Pass, and when challenged on it, about how much of a financial destruction that would do to Game Pass, to Microsoft, not just Xbox, but to actually Microsoft to have that kind of impact, just went, nah, make it exclusive or there's no point doing it. How can you take any trust in what they're saying when they're back and forth on their opinions so much? Now, fair enough, people can change their mind. But if you're not taking on board the data and the information, like we have conversations all the time, the three of us on the show, off the show, and we have different perspectives and different opinions, and we have conversations where we explain look, this is what we think. This is why we think it. We have a discussion. We learn something new because we understand what each other's saying. We do it with people that are listening to this show and people outside of this show. We can change our opinions or change our thoughts on things once we learn new information. But we do it from a perspective of, this is what we know, let's find out more info. And if we've got a holistic possession, then we come to a conclusion. And we can be at different points in opposition, or we can to opposing viewpoints, and we can be on similar viewpoints. But when someone is actively making money as their main primary source of income by being back and forth one week to the next on things that are not factually correct. Remember when Colt leaned into his mic and said he heard a rumor that Xbox was in front worldwide? Has anyone been able to find that video since? It's damn near impossible to get your hands on it because he tore it down off the internet with a week later when the information came out that Xbox was getting thumped 2-1 in console sales. But telling, like you said, beating up his supporter base to give him money because he's saying things that they like and they're factually incorrect. He doesn't have any spine when it comes to saying things where giving any criticism against any of the platform holders, regardless of whether it's saying back against Xbox or not. Remember when it was only 4 games coming, and then it was the whole slate, and then it was, oh no, only for, back and forth on whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. And the jury's still out on the financial performance of doing that, but it looks like it's going to work for them. So they're not going to turn the ship around because there hasn't been a major catastrophe. And here he is banging on about how great it is to have all these games across all these platforms, but it's the best place to play on Xbox. He might as well just throw a flag up in the air and say, hey, I've got no opinion. I just say whatever they tell me to say.
Now, Falky, I won't question your math, but I will say I was told that because I believe $31.5 billion is a bigger number than $24.5 billion, and because 80 million consoles sold is a bigger number than 30 million consoles sold, and most especially because what I was taught when I was growing up was that $31.5 billion divided by 123 million people is a bigger number than $24.5 billion divided by 500 million people. That because I believe in those things, I'm a pony.
Yep. That math has been around since ancient Greece. They worked that shit out with sticks in the dirt, and God help you if it was a windy day.
Socrates.
That's actually, you brought up a really good point. I didn't realize that. I guess all those ancient civilizations that invested so much in math, the Egyptians, the Greeks, the ancient Chinese, the Arabics, I guess they were all ponies before PlayStation consoles were even made.
Absolutely. And let's not forget, all those civilizations came to the same conclusion without talking to each other.
Very true. They didn't have a Discord server and a secret cabal telling them what their talking points were, handing out the pamphlets as when Moses came down from the mountain.
Isn't there a word? Isn't that like a word for that? There's a collective noun for that. It's called a cult, isn't it?
The cabal. Yeah. No, I mean this is, and that's the thing that's frustrating. And I've stayed away from calling out specific content creators, but then I saw Colin's tweet yesterday, and then just my own interaction with people arguing against ecosystems and exclusivity. I'm like, guys, like, again, we just shared the Circana numbers that have, you see 4 or 5 exclusives in the top 20 for Circana, right? I mean, and exclusives do chart the top 20 of Circana quite a bit. I think it's safe to say we'll see Ghost of Yote in the top 20 Circana when it releases. And again, like, these guys are speaking out against things that are not true based on what we see or what we see in terms of the market, or how the market's reacting to exclusivity and to these ecosystems. I mean,
to put some levity on it, some yay verilies, right? Are they as big a deal as they used to be? No. Right? Exclusives used to be the tiebreaker. They used to be the thing.
Yeah,
you walked into
absolutely.
the store, that was the principal thing that your console buying decision was based on. And today it's not that. But our point is that it is absolutely one of the factors that people take into consideration, and that it is not entirely off the table. Then we have other corroborating things, like the fact that we know that people who were not gamers watched The Last of Us, and then we're told, oh, this is a video game too. Where can I go play that? Well, you can go play that on PlayStation, right? And then went out and purchased PlayStations. We have the not insignificant percentage of like people that Falky mentioned who are new to the PlayStation ecosystem. So our point is that so first of all, like going back to the original discussion that BRAP is talking about, is people behave like exclusives only exist in the gaming space, and they tie it to the notion of software tightly coupled to hardware, and they act like that's criminal and doesn't happen anywhere else, and it absolutely happens other places. In the operating system space, you have a walled garden model proffered by Apple. You have a proprietary but licensed model proffered by Microsoft with Windows, and you have an open source model with Linux. IT professionals who work right in the space know that there is something that we are all raised with called vendor lock-in. And that is where your company makes a technology choice, and because of things that are done, it makes it very difficult for them to leave that ecosystem, like Oracle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people who are IT professionals who go around saying that exclusives don't matter, that exclusives don't exist, that they only exist in gaming, know that that's not the case, because we live with it every day. Now, admittedly, in enterprise, there are some negatives to it, right? But there are also some reasons why people go that way, right? Because your organization isn't particularly IT savvy, because you can't be saddled with the additional overhead that comes with managing open source, right? With custom code. Gee, maybe that sounds like kind of like a bit of consumers in the space who don't want to be bothered with a bunch of overhead and a bunch of chicanery and shenanigans, right? But the other thing is, and this is the thing that I consistently bring up, is that software development gets less complex when you only have one hardware target to focus on. And when you go back and you look at, and I only had time to look at the TGAs, but in the TGAs, your games of the year, a third of them have been exclusives. And they're all good games. We have a lot of the great games that we've gotten over the last decade have been exclusives. And so there are some of us who value that. And I don't think we're the only ones. I don't think we're a small percentage. Right? There's absolutely, like, and this is one of the things I wrote up on Twitter, there's absolutely an argument that says if the entire industry skews into the direction of putting their games on every single platform, there are certain things that go along with that just make sense. Like if I was going to wrap my business around that, I would do absolutely what Xbox is doing, which is I would start putting lesser emphasis on proprietary in-house engines, and I would start to convert everything over to UE5. Because that's going to make my staffing problem easier, because I can't go outside the door and swing a cat, right, in California and not hit a developer who doesn't know how to code in UE5.
And the training costs to get UE5 is reducing at a phenomenal rate as well.
Exactly, because now I'm going to have cross-pollination and portability right from any developer, from any across any studio. I'm not sending somebody over to where they're going to have to learn like that development studio's proprietary engine. So I'm going to start moving everything over to UE5. And as we've already seen, when you have everything being done on UE5, things start to look samey because everybody's using the same assets. And so what you're going to get, and this is my problem with the people who are arguing for this, you're going to get watered down, diluted, devalued games over time.
Commodities.
We're just commodities. We're going to get pop music, right?
Yes.
And we have consumers in the space who that is not what they value. They want nice things. They're willing to pay for nice things. I am all for Game Pass. I am all for a lot of these things that have happened that make gaming affordable for people. I've spoken about this multiple times over the last 3 years.
But the thing is, Logic, but they are those things, those mechanisms for affordability exist already.
Agreed.
But they're never talked about.
Well,
It's a,
is that a fair statement to make though? I think they're talked about ad nauseum, but in the wrong context.
Yes. Yeah. This is a matter
Yeah,
of both
that's
of you
fair.
being correct.
Yes.
But yes.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair, Palky.
Yeah, I mean, but this is
Yeah.
the first. We've talked about this. Like, look,
Yeah.
there are things that, like, if we're going to isolate this to the Xbox camp, there are things that should absolutely be raised up and should be praised. But instead of them being raised up and praised, they're constantly focused on as an attack surface. Like, we're being made fun of because of this. Like, instead of saying Game Pass has enabled a new type of gamer to come into the space, right? I go back to my own childhood, right? In the way that I couldn't get to certain types of gaming. I had to wait till I was a certain age to get to certain types of gaming, right? Because I had to be able to work, I had to be able to spend my own money, right? Not every kid is afforded that opportunity, right? So Game Pass is an enabler. Game Pass of the Series S is an enabler. And I think it's a good one, because I think when kids get exposed, I mentioned this on the podcast like years ago. Like, I think when kids get exposed to technology, right, and technology topics, that encourages them to go into STEM work fields, which I think is great. I think it's particularly great if somebody, in an impoverished state like I did, like I was growing up in the projects, right, gets exposed to that stuff. That's a kid. I was a kid who wasn't convinced that I was going to get an opportunity to go to college, right? And even when I thought that I could go to college, like, my prospects were like just local schools, right? And that was because I was gonna stay at home and work and go to the crosstown college, right? Didn't give me a really particularly opportunity. Like, thankfully I was pushed and encouraged, right, to apply other places and to do other things, right, to be able to go there. My point is, a lot of that, right, came from my interest in technology and my interest in gaming. Like, so I highly encourage people getting exposed to that. And like I said, I think Game Pass is a great enabler. I think Series S is a great enabler. I think anything that gets gaming into people's hands is a great enabler. But I don't think that because it's a great enabler, you need to, run that hypothesis 12 nautical miles out to sea into international waters and proclaim that, like, it's the way of the future and it's going to take everything over and nobody's going to give a crap about anything else. When we have data showing that people are still spending money on those things. If 40% of gamers are spending their time in black hole games on PlayStation 5 and Xbox, I get it. But they're spending 60% of their time on something else. That's maths. Right? And you have to give those people reasons on how they're going to spend that time that make you want to buy your console, right? Like I've said with this stuff, what you don't want, what I'm pretty sure you don't want if you're a console platform owner, is you don't want a person going into Best Buy and GameStop and flipping a coin, rolling a 20-sided die, and just making a choice randomly, because it doesn't matter, because they're not differentiated products, because they all look the same.
Exactly.
We're not putting white labels on consoles yet.
No.
Right? They're not all insignia brand consoles that you buy from Best Buy. Right?
I feel judged. No, but there's also psychology behind this, that was kind of the point to my tweet about, hey, you're sitting there tweeting out exclusives are bad and that games should be everywhere. You're doing this from your Apple iPhone or wearing your Nikes and eating a Big Mac. Like, there is a psychology behind owning something that other people can't have. For some, it actually makes that. And I was thinking about this today. Like, I remember buying things or buying something or owning something that had some kind of exclusive feature to it that I couldn't get anywhere else. And that made me feel like that purchase was worth it. Oh, I got my money out of this because I can't do this, or I can't have this elsewhere, or this one thing, whatever this one thing does that the competitor doesn't do, the money that I spend on this product is worth it for me. Right. It's like psychological reinforcement that you made the right choice because you're in gaming, because you could play this and you can't play this anywhere else. That's a real thing. Excuse me. Now, again, I don't disagree with your logic. I don't think it's the end all be all like it used to be. But I don't think that exclusives are completely off the table like some people think. Like some people are saying that it is. I think it's one part of the equation now. But that's, I think, the evolution of consoles too. We talked about the evolution earlier.
What's kind of nuts to me from a reasoning perspective is all of this argument, all of this discussion about like the consoles are so much the same, like all the games are still on the same platforms, and they're all based on the same technology. They're all based like on the same. I'm like, Jesus Christ, guys! Like, if 9 things out of 10 are all the same, then what do you think is there left for them to differentiate upon? Right?
Exclusives. I mean, yeah, I do. Yeah.
So
it's just,
I know. Sorry, I know we're on a time
Yeah,
sink,
go
and I
ahead,
probably
Valky.
chewed everyone's ears off too much. This night, the console war, everyone like the same flat earthers. I shouldn't call them flat earthers because that's picking on people who genuinely think the earth is flat. The dissociates, let's call them that. The dissociates, who, 1 minute the console war is over and it's been over for forever, and the next minute the console war is alive and well because we're talking about platforms and ecosystems, blah 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 blah. Publisher wars and all that sort of stupid shit because they want to keep their fan base riled and engaged. The exclusives has dropped off, as Logic eloquently put it, and I think he's absolutely nailed it on the head in the way that he's described it, and a massive applause for that, because I've struggled to find a way to explain it, and you do such a great job of explaining these things. It's tailed off in its importance because the competition has dropped off. But again, that was something that the 3 of us and a dozen other people that I know, all of us talking together, had said 2 or 3 years ago. If Xbox dies off in this generation and there's no competition there, direct one-to-one competition for PlayStation, things will just drop off. And it's less around them being pushed to do better and better and better games because there's always a constraint of budget. It's exclusives and the amount of exclusives and how they get those exclusives that are popping through. And it's not just the first party stuff, because again, PlayStation first party is 2, maybe 3 a year at best. Nintendo first party is 2, maybe 3 a year at best. It's the second party and third party exclusive deals that has just completely dried up. And one of the main contributing factors to that is that the demand to secure those third party and second party arrangements for exclusives for your platform or your console is just not there anymore, like it was in the PS2, 3, Xbox 360 era. It's not there, and not only is the demand not there for it, but the funding's not there for it anymore, which is vastly different to what it was a few years ago. But that's a consequence. It's not the only reason why exclusives have tailed off in importance, but that is an output or a consequence of the lack of competition in the console space. Yes, they're still on offer, but it's just not at the same cutthroat levels because people have pinned their mast, their colors to the mast, and with the back catalog and the digital storefronts, and that has made it very difficult to just drop one and move to the other. You're either doing it as a secondary or a tertiary point. But I also think there's a bit more nuance in that respect, that it's more of a business decision now from the people making the game in relation to how they get their funding passed through in that older structure of publisher and developer and all the rest of it for the third parties, in how they engage. And as Logic was saying before, all the different ways of accessing gaming now are they're great. It's when people try to make them the be all and end all of this is the new best thing, where I push back on it and say, well, the Series S is an absolute spud of a device. There's no way that's going to be the be all and end all of console gaming. You're an idiot if you think that's the case. Game Pass is a great product. Yeah, it is a great product, but it has the potential to do irreparable harm to the industry if it's mismanaged. And you left it in the hands of the people that you probably wouldn't want managing stuff in that respect anyway. But when they're just accepted for what they are and not pushed to be the next best thing as to something they're not, that's probably the delineation point. But people that make games have got to make these decisions now with all these different ways of accessing games. What's the best way of them to bring something to the market? And that's a very daunting and scary choice to make. That's even before you think about what engine you're doing and all the rest of that sort of stuff. You've got to think about in the original plan and concepts. I want to make a game. This is the sort of game I want to make. How am I going to make money out of this? Or am I in this to make money? There's plenty of games that are made by one person as a love job on their weekends. It takes 3 or 4 years to get there, and they're brilliant little indie games. And it's basically they've put no capital into it other than their own time investment. They find a publisher and they sell 50 or 100,000 copies and they get a decent whack of that money back. Great if they got a right deal. But the challenge of it, the exclusivity, is now more by choice. Like Lost Souls Aside is a great example. I think it's Lost Souls Aside. And Black Myth Wukong was the same. There was something in the arrangements or something in the technical specs or something there that said, we'd rather just do it here than try and do it everywhere. And it took them a long time to get to the everywhere else. But that's not PlayStation going out and tying all these exclusivity deals up. It's not or Xbox going out and tying all these exclusivity deals up. You know, they went and bought an entire, tier 2 publishing unit in ABK. They've brought all that stuff on board, but now they've got the challenge of how do we keep it going? And you've seen the cuts that have come through for that. It's impossible to just have that continue on when you change the function of it. But that's the byproduct of not having two competitors going neck and neck at it to try and secure a growing market. When the market street goes to a not flat line, but when it goes to a slow growth, it stabilizes, let's say that. It goes from double-digit percentage year-on-year growth to a stable market where you've got entrants coming in, but it's effectively barely more than replacing those that are exiting it. And as an overall market, you've got to find other ways of generating that growth from different aspects. But if you don't have two competitors going neck and neck at trying to do a race to the bottom, you don't get those things hyped up as much as they used to be. It's like exclusives were great, and they were what you went into the shop and decided what you were going to do based off is I can play this here, but I can't play it there. That's more my personal choice. I want to go in this direction. That environment doesn't exist now with the huge amount of different ways of accessing games as well. So it's a combination of a few different things that just pops out to this outcome. So, but exclusives still matter. They're just not hyped up like they used to be. But there's reasons for that, and that's one of the main outcomes of this no more console war.
Yeah, that's a great point, Falky. I didn't even think about like the different entry points almost competing with that traditional software release, right? I think that's what you're getting at, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. And that's going to be regardless of whether you're a first party game or your third party game. You're going to have that. You're going to be competing against those different entry points into gaming, whether it's subscription service, whether it's a free to play model, whether it's low cost AA indie game. So those dynamics aren't necessarily going to change if first party versus third party, right? I do want to say I want to go back to this tweet here, because I'm glad Colin said this. I think this was a good point to make. He said, "Is it me or the folks saying everything should be third party? Literally the same exact people who were celebrating, wishing, and hoping for and promoting exclusivity more than anyone else in our space. Regardless of where you stand, it feels wildly disingenuous." And I don't disagree with him. I think this has been I think Logic, you coined it a manufactured narrative. I don't disagree with Colin at all. And because people interact with ecosystems daily as consumers, the same people that are speaking out against this, this is why I'm like, this is just, I'm not buying what they're selling. And then Colt replies, a few years ago, console fans couldn't have those games from the other platform. Now they can, and they found Here Comes the Grift, and they found a new thing to celebrate, which is a far better thing than celebrate exclusivity. Colt acting as if people don't care for exclusives, when again they clearly do. We talked about the Circana numbers, the games, exclusive games charting on Circana as best-selling games for the month of July. 4 games that are exclusives. Again, we see that other months, other times of the year. Logic talked about Game of the Year nominations being exclusives. Many during the VGAs, and I don't know if you said other Game Award shows, Logic, but I think you said the VGAs, right?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to do a round trip of the BAFTAs, Golden Joysticks, GDC Players or People's Choice, and Dice. Yeah.
So Colin's response I thought was great. Or the very thing you loudly championed and edged, and I'm sorry, I didn't read that correctly. The very thing you loudly championed and egged on completely failed, and so you pivoted to something new, which is exactly what I think Colt and a lot of these content creators, influencers have done, which again I find very disingenuous. Whether or not it's your intention, that's certainly how it reads. I'm a console fan, and my opinion hasn't changed at all, so your explanation is inadequate. I mean, I don't disagree with what Colin's saying here. I mean, he's saying I'm a console fan, but my opinion hasn't changed. And as somebody who's a console fan myself, my opinion hasn't changed either, that those things still hold value. And clearly they do, because we see the numbers. We see the actual data that shows that those things do value. Those things are valuable. We see that those ecosystems are valuable to consumers. So,
I mean, last time I checked narratives, big Xbox fans don't want to play PlayStation games. So I don't understand what all the rah-rah and pom-pomming is over, rousing for those games to be over on Xbox.
Yeah. And I didn't, again, I've tried to be a bit more PC about this. But I think after this past weekend with that tweet that I put out, I was like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not doing it anymore, because it's really, I don't want to explain this without calling more people out.
I get the argument, right? And I get the perspective and the angle of view why a person might feel that way. What I don't buy is the altruism, the supposed consumer advocacy. I don't get the willful ignorance and willfully being obtuse and behaving as if these market forces and dynamics don't only exist in the gaming market.
Well, you can buy Nike shoes anywhere.
Right.
But and that was part of the argument that I got. Oh, well, you can buy Nike shoes. That's not the point, though. The point isn't that you can buy Nike shoes everywhere. And actually you can't, because there are special Nike releases that only release through Nike. That's another conversation. The point was that Nike owns this thing that consumers value, and that Nike values, because it drives people to their brand. It creates a value perception amongst consumers for that brand, which motivates consumers to go out and spend money on that brand. It's the same thing with gaming. Nike has Air Jordan. They want you to go buy the Air Jordans. You go to their store, or you go to Dick's Sporting Goods because they have a Nike Air Jordan that no one else has. And what do? You buy the Air Jordans. Now you're looking at now you're walking around. You know what? I got to gear it up. I'm going to buy some more Nike gear. Or you go to the Nike app. You do the same thing.
And Nike pays Jordan for an exclusive deal.
Yes.
Because if he marketed his brand to multiple sneakers, then Air Jordans would not be as valuable. That is the point of the business function on the consumer market of exclusives.
Absolutely, because then you could get them anywhere. And part of that allure of not being able to have it everywhere is what drives people to Nike, and why Nike finds value in that.
And again, I understand how maybe it twists some people's minds up. Yes, Jordan is a hyper specific like example, and it's a personality brand, right? I get it.
You know, analogies are one-to-one logic. So.
Right? Yeah, I mean,
that's the other thing I learned. Like
dealing with a community of people who can't understand what an analogy is.
But fucking like how do you not know an analogy is not one-to-one?
Well,
like you should be able to connect the dots. Analogies are for identifying patterns. For crying out loud.
Things I said, BRAP, willfully ignorant and willfully obtuse.
And see Falky smiling, but I learned that today. Falky's like, I don't know. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Like guys, you know how you guys don't know how to now like analogies aren't an exact one-to-one. Like, what are we doing here?
You do. I'm trying to think of a nice way to say this without sounding like I'm picking on you.
I do it to myself.
No. I wasn't going to say you do it to yourself. What I have had to learn, what I have had to practice, because I've learned it a long time ago, but what I've had to practice in more recent times is that people who are dumb don't realize that they're dumb. They think that they're intelligent. And when you try to explain to them how they are wrong, not simply just telling them that they're incorrect in their application of their knowledge, but try to explain to them how something should work, they get into a fit of rage because you're basically pointing out in public that they're dumb. And they just flatly will shut down and not accept it. And the problem with that is they're constantly just missing the mark on so much stuff. And but you know, there's a saying, don't ever argue with a fool, because people watching won't know the difference, won't know who's who. One person's trying to make sense of somebody who's never going to accept it. And I have to remind myself about that a lot, because there's so many people who just, like you say with the analogy thing, that they think it's a direct one-to-one, and or they don't understand how an analogy works or how an example works or anything like that, and they'll take what you're saying and try and just twist it to make sense of it because they just don't know how dumb they are. And it's sad in some instances to watch some people just clearly not be able to understand that they're in way over their head and they need to stop talking.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point, Falky. That's a fair point.
And
I may have to.
One last note I'll throw out. I think the last vertex of this is you know the trying to be like you, BRAP, trying to be PC. Is the people who are engaged in a conversation because they are bothered by a feeling that their preferred platform or their brand is maligned in public opinion, maligned by the media, treated unfairly, and who therefore take the stance that if you're coming down with a business assessment on PlayStation, then that means you're a PlayStation fan. I think the last thing I'll say is, so I don't think any of us have predicted that exclusives are here to stay in perpetuity forever, right?
No.
What we've said is they have definitely lost traction, and there are definitely other reasons why people make console platform choices. But we've said that exclusives still have sway and that they're still significant. That if people are playing 40% of their time on Black Hole games, they're spending 60% playing somewhere else. That if developers have said that they think exclusives will be less important in the future, and a third of them have said that, that means that 2/3 of them have not said that. Right? So again, the market and the industry are constantly evolving. We're at a point on the timeline of evolution, and that evolution is not complete. And the future that people predict, I don't know that that's ever going to get here. But just to put a fine point on it, if that future does get here, the notion that any of us on this panel will be heartbroken or have sand in our underpants or will become crippled and doubled over in the fetal position and unable to function, again, I will go back to, I have been gaming since this industry began. I was there when the first console went on sale at retail in North America. I have lived through the evolutions of home consoles as Pong machines, into the arcades, out of the arcades, 16-bit, 32-bit, 9 console competitors, 2 console competitors, 3 console competitors, Western console competitors, Eastern, like I've lived through all of it. And I have continued to game. So game logic isn't doubling over in the fetal position because PlayStation games wind up on another platform. I will do what I have consistently always done. And I've played on console, I played on PC, I've played on mobile. Far, far more than the people who claim that mobile is going to be the takeover. Right? I have gamed on all of these systems. I have adapted. Game logic is not going to be doubled over in the fetal position, hiding underneath a desk because PlayStation games wind up on another platform. I will continue to adapt. I will continue to change. I will continue to game. Typically, to a far greater degree than most of the people who raise those arguments. I think what we are in is we are in an evolution. I don't think we are in a cataclysm or a revolution, I think as some people have suggested. We are in an evolution and the industry will continue to evolve. And there's a ton of people still in the industry who came up through those times, who are the people who are spending money. And I do not believe, well, corporate principles that I don't believe. I don't believe PlayStation is interested in selling fewer consoles. I don't believe PlayStation is interested in making less money. I don't believe any of these competitors are interested in today in alienating the demographics, the generation, the population that is spending billions of dollars keeping their industries afloat and completely abandoning those players and tossing off a ton of revenue so they can go chase a bunch of players who don't spend money. I think each of the competitors is figuring out the thing that they need to do to balance that equation and evolve into the future. And while they're balancing that equation, while they're working that calculus, right, and figuring out how to evolve, I believe they're going to still, at least some of them, are still going to continue to invest money in exclusives in order to cover down on customer acquisition and customer retention. And while we say that there's zero customer defection, that is also untrue. That might be a small number, but it's not untrue because we've seen evidence of the defections that happen. So
yeah, that's
if you want to ride along with us and watch the evolution and come here to have a genuine conversation about the gaming industry evolution based on objective evidence and facts and math, please feel free to join us every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time.
That's a great outro logic and a great way to end the show. I think Falky approves. Falky, do you have anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
I don't think I can top that. I think that's a very, very good, very eloquently put.
Yeah, I agree. Great point, logic, by the way, of the platform owners or holders not wanting to alienate the group of consumers that spends billions for a group of consumers that doesn't spend a lot of money. It's counterintuitive, right? People don't think about that. It's a great point. But
people don't almost think full stop.
No, I think, and one of the things I had this moment today, and I wanted to share this with you, Falky, because I mentioned ARPU earlier. I don't want to forget this point because we've talked about Mao, and you shake your head every time you hear Mao. It's not about Mao. It's about there it is right there. He's like, it's about ARPU.
Yep.
And I thought to myself, if I own an ecosystem, and I think Logic and I were talking about this earlier today, it's really clicked because I've been reading a lot about ecosystems and how Apple runs the Apple ecosystem, PlayStation, different brands, Nike, McDonald's. Yes, I've read about McDonald's. But it's interesting because it's all about getting the consumer to your store and having them spend money, right? And in Logic, you talked about that you think the battle in the future is going to be the battle of the storefront, right? And so Falky, I said ARPU earlier in the show, and today it just dawned on me. I was like, well, if I'm a platform owner and I have this ecosystem, where am I going to get the majority of my ARPU from? Is it going to be that one-off retail sale of a single player game on another platform where I'll make $70 with that consumer? Or is it going to be trying to get people to come to my platform, buy into my storefront, keep the people that I have engaged, and make more money off them? And so I often think that people look at MAU and they say, well, more monthly active users. Logic presented the math earlier in the show. More monthly active users, the better. The more people. Well, no, that meant it'd be valuable to a platform owner who owns that ecosystem to spread their games everywhere, where that person may never spend a single dime in their ecosystem. And so it made me think about ARPU, Falky. And at the end of the day, it's really about MAU's great, but if that MAU's not turning into ARPU for you, it means shit.
Exactly.
So what's more valuable for you?
Well, would you rather be Toyota or Ferrari?
Toyota.
And it's, why would you rather be Toyota? They run at a 6.7% net profit margin, and they spend billions of dollars to get there.
I said Toyota because I actually prefer the Toyota trucks. Right? You asking? Yeah. I'm a truck owner. You asking? That's a bad question to ask me.
Oh well, sorry. I'll try that again. Because if you've got Toyota is massive amounts of inputs, massive amounts of outputs, and they've got a really thin margin, but they make small amounts of dollars from a huge.
If you would have said, ask me if you prefer Mercedes or Hyundai, I would have said Mercedes.
Yeah, well, same thing. Mercedes makes Hyundai makes a huge amount of volume with thin margins, whereas Mercedes or even Ferrari runs at a 27% net margin, and they have a quarter of the inputs that Toyota has, but they still generate as much revenue. Now, would you say that Ferrari or Toyota's got the better revenue per customer?
Oh, Ferrari by
per customer. So
Ferrari, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and this is the piece that this is an analogy that people should understand, but they never do. You want to get into points around how many users have you got? That's crap load of users is great as long as they're spending money. I would much rather have, and it goes back to the old method of the corner store. I'd rather have 20 dedicated customers that show up every day to buy their coffee and their donuts or whatever it is, and spend the money and pay full price, than have 100 of them lining up only to get using coupons and get the discount. The donuts are free and the coffee is 10 cents a cup. It is impossible to survive as a business if your customer base is expecting to get everything and give you nothing. There needs to be that two-way interaction. And I say it all the time, is the role of the business is to find a way of reaching into your pocket and taking out as much money as possible that you will allow them to. And if you've got 500 million users or 1 billion users or whatever it is that are just not spending any money, you got to find a way of making money, which means that somebody else is giving you the money to provide that to the consumer. Well, cue the advertisers. Why do you think the mobile gaming market's got such a big revenue base? Because it's all advertising. They hardly, you look at how many actual mobile games are sold. There's 4/5 of nothing. All that revenue that sits in those reports in the games generating that revenue is microtransactions and advertising.
Well, I think that's what Logic was hitting at when he talked about, turning gaming into commodity. And then the focus becomes monetization of the consumer. It's not just that $70,
But would you rather have a smaller base that spends larger amounts of money, that you can rely on to spend larger amounts of money, might be less frequently, but they still spend larger amounts of money? Would you rather have that and producing a higher quality product? And that's going to happen with a level of certainty, and you can predict in the 80 and 90% range of certainty? Or would you rather have 20 or 30 times more customer base that you don't know are going to spend any money and are hit and miss, and maybe they'll enjoy something or maybe they'll take something up. It just depends on how they're feeling. I know which one I'd rather have. I'd rather have the dedicated customer base, and I would rather invest the money in making sure that they stay happy rather than throwing stuff at them going, this is good enough. You're not going to get anything better because you don't give me any money.
And so there's an interesting case study in that, Falky. Like, so one would imagine that at a point, the microwave industry was the same way. That there were microwaves being sold that were differentiated. And so people were like, hey, there's this reason to go buy this microwave. And so there's absolutely, again, going, and I know Falky, you hate when I do this, and I think BRAP, you hate it too. So this is yet again me articulating in a better way than they are the opposition's argument. Right? There's an argument to be had that that's a viable business model as long as there are consumers where those value propositions are in vogue, right? But to a certain extent, right? There's an argument that in certain forms of entertainment, especially, you can look at consumer bases that evolve over time and stop putting as much value on those things, right? Let's look at music, right? So music has gone through this evolution to where now, in very many ways, like recorded music is much more so a commodity. Live music is the real product differentiator, but most of music is just like so many people consume it just as background noise, right? And so value wasn't placed on those things. Value wasn't placed on microwaves and product differentiation as much. And so microwaves eventually became a commodity. They flattened out. And this is the argument that some of them hinge upon, where it's a mature market. It's more mature now, right? But it's not as mature as, say, microwaves. To now where I think there are 2 or 3 vendors that, like, in the entire microwave industry that make all the microwaves. And then other companies just slap their molding right on the outside, but the internals are all made by like 2 or 3 companies. So there's a point where that evolution could occur. But I would also say the problem with that point of evolution, and why there are lots of us who don't want that to happen, is because at that point, people will be consuming games the same way they do music, as background noise. Things they don't give a shit about. Commodities, pork bellies. Right? So there's a faction of people, I think, that want that future to arrive, or they're okay with that future arriving. I think they're okay with that future arriving because at that point, then their preferred platform will be seen as an equal with the other preferred platform. But the problem that I have with that notion of that future is that's because people won't give a shit about either one, right? Because all people will want to play is Fortnite or some other commodity. So I mean, yeah. So I mean, and going back to your other thing too that I wanted to pounce upon is the thing that you mentioned about Ferrari and Toyota. And here's where this is a point that I have tried to drive home. It is possible for both Ferrari and Toyota to be looking at the same KPIs for their business, but for those KPIs to be looked at from different perspectives, because in all instances, what should happen in a business is the KPIs that you focus on should be the ones that align to your OKRs, right? The metrics that you look at should be supportive of the strategies that dictate what you are trying to achieve, what your business model is around, what you want your market position to be. And this is where I argue that strategy and tactics are different, right? Things that you do in the theater of war at the operational level are different than what you do on the battlefield. They aren't necessarily the same, but they should align. And very many times you will have the same tactical activities going on, but they're for a different strategic purpose. And so this is where I say Microsoft's multi-platform third-party vector, right, is a strategy that does not equate it to the things where PlayStation is putting games on other platforms, nor do they need to be. I also don't understand this advocacy for every, and again, it's because of what I just said before. I don't know that there should be an advocacy for every platform owner to be pursuing the exact same strategy, because then consumers don't have choice. If they're all doing the same thing, we get less choice. At that point, yes, we should just all have one console, and we should just all have all the same games, because there isn't any product differentiation on the market. But this is where it's, the thing that you said before, right? It is possible, because people took the statement that PlayStation is focusing on MAU, which is not new, has been around for several years. Oh, they're focusing on MAU now, so they're now doing the same thing as Xbox does. No, they're looking at the same KPI, but that KPI is driving two different business models and two different strategies. Focusing on that KPI doesn't mean that they're all pursuing the same, that they're both pursuing the same strategy. It is possible to be looking at the same metric and have that driving a different business.
Absolutely.
That's a great point. Logic.
No two businesses are the same.
No, 110%, Falky. Even businesses with the same industry, which again, I think that's a hard concept for people to grasp. So,
but that shouldn't diminish. And looping it back to try and tie in other parts of the conversation we've had so far today, that should not diminish the fact or the number of facts that exist. Gaming is the largest portion of the entire entertainment industry and market. Fact, by a long way. It's bigger than movies and music combined. That's a fact. Another fact to go along with it, it is an extremely personal engagement proposition. Everybody engages with gaming in an entirely unique, individualized, personal way. That's a fact. When you put those two things together, you try and run a business model that caters to large volumes of users or large volumes of customers, and try and broaden it out so that you can get them all into these predetermined categories that the regulations require you to operate in to a degree. The amount of flexibility that actually exists in gaming is quite unique. And again, that is a fact, because it is a unique industry. It doesn't matter what side of it you're on, consumer or provider. When you look at all these things combined and all the different access points that exist, and as I said before, take them for what they are: Game Pass, PC, console, mobile gaming, free to play, whatever. There's all these different ways to access gaming in multiple different genres and all that. It's just extremely broad engagement points for very personalized touch points, right? The only other area you could possibly look at is literature, which would be comparable to a degree, but that's totally different subset for different reasons. If you put all these things on the board, put them all up on the whiteboard, put it all in your perspective. If somebody opens their mouth and says, you've got no right to enjoy this, or you're wrong in your enjoyment of such and such because you choose to do X, Y, Z in your own personal engagement, and I'm not talking about, as I said before, people that are just completely wrong because they ignore facts, they ignore information, all the rest of it. You as an individual, like Logic put before, as an individual, Game Logic knows how he wants to engage and how he will choose to engage in the future with the options that are available. And that is an extremely personal proposition that only Game Logic can talk to. And no one has the right to tell him that he is wrong because of what he wants to do for his own personal enjoyment. And yet you still get people running around, running their flag up the pole. It doesn't matter what red, green, blue, purple, whatever Steam color is these days. It doesn't matter. No one has the right to tell another person how they should or shouldn't enjoy what they're consuming. And that's the piece that pisses me off the most. You get people riling up supporter bases on the pretense that, and like with your tweets and that you were talking about earlier, you're wrong for liking what you like because my opinion should matter more than what you feel. And that is just completely arse about face. That is completely wrong. And the individuals that run around and do that, they need a good kick in the ass.
All right, gentlemen, Falky, thank you for those those words of wisdom there at the end. Swift kick in the ass. Also want to give a big congratulations to our good friends Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce announced her engagement. So congratulations to those two. But no, great show, gentlemen. Want to give everyone a big shout out. Everyone, thank you for the live chat. I think the conversation was mostly civil. Want to give a big shout out to Ghost, who joined us earlier. He actually, unfortunately, storm hit his area, so he lost power. So he had to leave, but want to give a big shout out to Ghost. Thank you so much for joining the show. Falky, always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. It's always great to see you, because I know that humanity's lived to see another day. We haven't blown ourselves to bits. And I don't know if you want to be found, Falky, but if you do, let everyone know they can find you.
I'm more than happy. Come find me. We'll have a drink. We'll have a chat. You'll find me on Twitter at Forky87. Might be a little bit more active now that all the big heavy workload's done. You find me poking around a few different podcasts. But yeah, drop in, say good day. Hit us up if you need anything to be explained or something doesn't make sense. Always happy to have that proper conversation. If you're willing to learn, I'm willing to teach. If you're not willing to learn, don't bother me. Please don't send idiots my way. I've got no tolerance for them anymore in my aging. In my aging and lack of youth, my patience for idiots has just diminished to nothing. So, but always happy to have a conversation. Hit us up if you got any questions, queries, or comments. But yeah, thanks again for having me on. It's good to be amongst friends and have a good chat.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Falky, thank you again. And Logic, I don't know if you want to be found, but if you do, please let everyone know they can find you as well.
I do not want to be found. I do want to take my time to do a quick rundown of significant releases this week. We mentioned some of them, but Gears of War Reloaded out on PS5, Xbox, and PC. Helldivers 2 out on Xbox. Kirby and the Forgotten Land Nintendo Switch 2 edition plus Star-Crossed Worlds. That's the DLC, I think, on the Switch 2. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater out on PS5, Xbox, and PC. Lost Soul Aside out on PS5 and PC. And Shinobi Art of Vengeance out on PS5, Switch, Xbox, and PC. The other thing I want to use my outro time for is just in case there's any history buffs out in the audience. I would strongly suggest two podcasts. The first will I'm sorry. The Rest is History, which is a really great series. Where right now they're doing a series on World War One. The other one that you might have some interest in this one, this episode at least. BRAP is the History Channel does a podcast right now, or the most recent episode is about Jose Cuervo.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I did not realize there's an actual town in Mexico called Tequila, and that's where tequila actually comes from.
That's where tequila comes from. Yeah.
Still a great town, not located in a great province, actually surrounded by Mexican drug cartel violence. But at any rate, the town of Tequila is very historical. So it's an episode about the outbreak of the Mexican Civil War, and how Jose Cuervo was trying to navigate that in order to save his tequila business empire. So really, really super interesting episode. But the Rest is History is actually I've listened to about my third episode of that over the last few weeks, and that's really interesting.
Yeah, tequila's in Jalisco, which I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. You mentioned cartels, but yeah, I used to know some of the history of the Cuervo, because it's I think his family. I think his family inherited some land or something. I used to know some of the history, and I forget, but
they were kind of like landed. They had basically been appointed / anointed by the Spanish crown.
Okay.
To
some land, right?
To land, and where they grow the agave fruit, which is what is used to make tequila. Yep. And so for a while they were like the only like real purveyors, and then there was a guy who was his principal competitor who kind of rose up through the ranks, and Jose actually was on the rise, but then both his father and mother died relatively closely together of cancer. And so a lot of the expansion that had happened, his father had done by taking out loans. So after his parents died, he wasn't entirely ruined. Fortunately, he had a very rich uncle who was also running a tequila business, and then actually got married. And then the uncle died, and Jose actually wound up marrying his deceased uncle's wife. So based on her choice, actually, she forced him to get married. So it's a super interesting story that you should it's interesting if you ever wanted to listen to it. But
Yeah,
those are recommendations for the audience. The Rest is History podcast, I think, is really good. And then if you're interested, you can check out the History Channel one if you want to know the history of tequila.
Yeah, no, I know that. I don't know if many people know this, but Cuervo has been around since like, oh shit, was it like late
1700s,
early was it 70? Okay, I thought it was. I thought they actually started making tequila though, like actually making the tequila in the late early 1900s.
I don't remember. I think it was before that.
Okay,
I think it was before that.
All right, yeah,
but there were inflection points like when there were two big kind of, I won't use the term industrial revolution, but like kind of like tequila revolutions where he modernized the plant first, and then there was another one where they brought the railroads in, and then there was another one because he got sent to the World Fair by Mexican President Diaz, who was eventually who was corrupt and was eventually overthrown. He left the country and escaped to France, and then his successor was overthrown in a coup. But at any rate, and then he modernized again. Like he got the government to build the railway in so that they could distribute tequila all over the world, right, to the larger. Because tequila needs to be on all platforms. I mean, that was the big thing.
Oh my goodness. Well, I will say this.
That actually made sense.
I will say, if you're somebody who drinks tequila, you have to drink tequila that's 100% agave. It is actually, I mean, not that alcohol is completely healthy for you, or really healthy for you, but it is it's a cleaner tequila. It doesn't have a lot of like additives. I know like Jose Cuervo, like Gold Cuervo, like I wouldn't touch that. Like and I don't know the specific additives, but I do know that at least people say this, that it gives you a worse hangover than like tequila that's made 100% agave. But you can actually tell at least I can tell the difference between like Cuervo Gold and like Cuervo 1800, which uses the 1800 is the higher end Cuervo brand that uses 100% agave, which, as Logic mentioned, is the fruit that they use to make tequila. So anyhow, just if you're looking for tequila, just make sure it's 100% agave. All right. On that note, you can find me at BRAP _podcast. You can find us here every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And everyone, have a great week. And just remember, a lot of games coming out. Logic just ran down a list of games that are releasing here this month of August. I hope I can get to. I really want to play Shinobi Art of Vengeance. It got really Shinobi. Just, I mean, my childhood right there, and arcades, and just it's great to see this game back. It's 87 Metacritic right now. It's out. I think it's out in 3 days, if I'm not mistaken, right? I have to go back and look at the release date. Yeah. So
it's this Friday, I think.
Yeah. So August 29th. So it's great to see a classic back. And then we get, speaking of Ninja games, we get Ninja Gaiden 4 in October. So definitely looking forward to that as well. So. All right. We are out. Thank you for the live chat. Please do me a favor and hit that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing, hit the bell notifications so you're alerted when we go live. We'll be back actually, no, there will be no show next Wednesday because BRAP will be on travel for work. So no show on Wednesday. So I may do a makeup show later in the week. I'm only gone for travel for a day for work, but I don't know. I may do a show like maybe Friday or Saturday. We'll see if time permits. But anyhow, Falky, thank you, sir. Ghost, thank you. And Logic, always a pleasure. Everyone in the live chat, thank you so much. We'll catch you next time.